Maybe this is a bit of a hot take, but I feel like experience is the only teacher. You could learn something from a book, you could learn something from someone else, but at the end of the day, until you experience it yourself, you'll never fully know how it is. A risk is actually an opportunity, because if there's no risk, there's no reward. They are intrinsically linked. You can't have risk without reward. You can't have reward without. It's rare to find reward without risk. Some would argue that you can't have reward without risk, because the risk is actually the thing that creates the reward in the first place.
Most definitely.
Right.
If you ever had a dream, this one is for you. I grew up when the dream was to push up a zero. Something with single digits that was heavily tinted. Back when the sugar industry was all still spinning, and teething out a mango tree was the only real sinning.
Greetings and welcome to the Double I Chambers, more professionally known as the Renaissance Reflections Chambers. And you're tuning in today for an episode of the Renaissance Reflection Conversations with Judas, where I connect with exceptional individuals who've attained some level of success in their spaces and take an introspective journey down memory lane for them to provide some context of how they got that from the start to their finish. Today, we have a very special guest. I could definitely say I'm in the presence of greatness without a doubt. Very multifaceted individual. You can call him a poet, you can call him an artist, you can call him an arts educator, you can call him a musician. These are just a few of his many, many talents. And I'm very proud and honored to have my bro on the platform today, Patrick Walters.
Thank you so much for having me, bro.
Man, it's definitely my pleasure, bro. You know, usually for me, when things are in the early stages, to have you involved is usually a good thing. You know what I'm saying? So I have exceptional expectations for what's going to happen here today. And I know you're going to provide some very insightful context for the people.
Absolutely.
And for myself, and provide the many gems as you usually do. Before we get into it, I'm just going to allow you to explain to the people who've never met you before, who is Patrick Walters?
So you introduced me quite well just now, I think. So I will take from what you said and say that I'm a poet and an arts educator and a creative person in general. I'm a learner, I'm a thinker of things, and I like to be involved where I can to provide value in many different spaces. So that's who I currently am, and I look forward to giving you a new intro tomorrow, because it might be something else.
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I feel like you far from your peak.
You're always growing.
Yeah.
I tell you all the time, sneak peek behind the camera, but I tell you all the time that improving is my superpower. Just always being able to go back to the next thing and see how I could have improved and do it better the next time. That's like one of the things that I pride myself on. So, yeah.
And you basically led us into the follow-up question, because I asked you just before, super insightful answer, and I love it. So I'm going to ask you again to repeat for the people. What is one word you think could encapsulate your very essence that is Patrick Walters?
Improvement. Constantly looking to do something new, something fresh, something better than before, and always looking to make an impact and say something important with my art or whatever the case may be that I'm working on. I like it to have some sort of value and relevance.
Do you have an improvement process framework in place, or is it sort of like freelance? So I give you an example where like you work out.
Yeah.
So I would assume you have like schedules and what you're going to do, things of that nature. So you could basically gauge your progress.
100%.
Do you have a metric like that for yourself personally and also for your art? Is it one thing?
I actually make no real differentiation in terms of the various aspects of my life. I like to think that my discipline in one area of my life improves and has a positive impact on discipline in other areas of my life. I think there's this idea that like folks who excel in one thing, they tend to like fall behind or whatever the case may be. But I think if you have discipline and you have like foundational principles across your life, then that actually will be the thing that helps you be more disciplined in all areas of your life. Successful people, they don't just do their jobs or become entrepreneurs or whatever the case may be. They're also interested in personal development, becoming more intelligent, becoming more empathetic, becoming more healthy, working out. Like there's all these various things that you can identify, markers basically that you can identify for folks who excel in their fields, in their various fields, and they kind of all share the same outlook and perspective on life.
That's a fact. Staying on your background, why using your actual name as the stage name? Why Patrick Walters as the stage name?
Because my work is my life and there's no real separation. Like I mentioned just now, I think that pretty much if you wanted to know who I am as a person, you have only to listen to my music. You have only to listen to my music. The rest of it is self-explanatory from there, in my opinion. Obviously, if you understand the metaphors and the bars and the similes, then yes, that's even a greater level of understanding that you will have. But the stories and the narratives that I choose to paint are purely my own in terms of like witnessing things, experiencing things in life, having perspectives, educating myself, learning about different points in history and stuff like that, and just becoming a more well-rounded individual in general. Like I said just now, helps me to become a better artist as well. So like the discipline that I have in working out 4 times a week or doing walking or whatever the case may be, that is actually helping me have more discipline as an artist to, you know, write a certain amount or make sure that I'm still creating at all times and stuff like that. So I try my best to move that idea. I call it moving the whole product forward. So like the whole product being my life, improvement in every single aspect, not just becoming a better artist, but becoming a better, well-rounded person.
Coming from the place that we come from, St. Kitts, St. Kitts, sweetest place in the world. Why did you choose to pursue poetry as opposed to anything else under the sun, especially considering the fact that there was no, I would say, infrastructure for that at that time?
Before I realized that I could ever do it professionally as a career, I fell in love with the art of doing it. I realized I had a God-given talent and I had a good enough support system to actually keep me going and to put myself in a situation where like I could flourish and be encouraged, and my mom and dad was supportive. Actually, was telling you this story the other day of the first poem I ever wrote entitled The Earth, and it was in grade 4, and my teacher sat and she was like, oh shit, this is really good.
This is amazing.
Yeah. And I took it to my principal, and the principal was like, damn, okay, we got something to work with here. I think that kind of like spawned a little bit of fire inside me to be like, yo, this is something that I am pretty good at and I enjoy doing it, and I think that I have something to say here, so I might as well pursue it. And my mom and dad were like, you know, very supportive in that regard. So, and then shortly after that, well, I shouldn't say shortly after that, I continued to write and continue to share in different contexts in church, etc., etc. And then when I was in Fort Farm, I had the opportunity to go to Island Expressions. I think actually maybe even been third farm, I had the opportunity to go into Island Expressions.
When I die, donate my body to science. They can cut me open and extract the ink from my veins, the smile in my eyes and the inspiration in my feet and my hands. More difficult to exhume.
Which is the open mic show that used to run down at Mapa, I think. Started by Samuel Duggins. It was a really good learning ground for me to make mistakes, and like I said, which is a theme of today, is improve, get better. I did poems every month for a year on Island Expressions, and not all of it was perfect, but by the time I was done, I was pretty good.
Wow. What made you want to stay that consistent? Was it a decision that you made at the top of the year, or it just kind of happened?
No, it was a decision that I made at the top. Actually, a decision that I made at the end of the previous year. And I was like, next year, I'm going to do a poem or poems, multiple, even sometimes every month for the whole year. And I kind of made that my mission. Like I said, it was a good training ground for me to learn what good poetry was. And there was a lot of other good artists there as well. So I could kind of like, you know, learn from them as well and see what people were doing that were getting a response. I went to school for psychology. So I didn't actually plan to become a full-time artist until just about I was ready to leave school. University. And the opportunities started to become more available to me based off of what I was doing. So that's kind of how that worked out. But even before I realized that I could do it full time, it was always a passion.
You mentioned university, so I just want to understand that point really quickly.
Yep.
Why psychology?
I've always been interested in people and how they think and work. My second album was entitled Human Nature because I am fascinated by human nature. We see the wrong thing to do and still do it every day. That is so confounding but beautiful to me.
I mean, because realistically, what would childhood be without poor decisions?
Right. And learning from them or not learning from them, and being defined by them or not being defined by them. You know, that is human nature. And that's why I named that album that, because that album for me was like kind of explaining how I am as a person. There's very personal stories in there about my life. So I wanted to make sure that like I was the first person sharing, and then in so doing, ask people to also think about their own humanity in doing these things that we all do on a day-to-day basis.
Interesting. Do you set time aside to just think? I know for some people they meditate for like 30 minutes every day. Is that something that you also do as well?
To a certain degree, although I will admit I'm almost constantly thinking, and it is more important for me to schedule time when I'm not thinking, intentionally not thinking, versus worrying about scheduling my thinking time as much, because like for me, that's why I do mindfulness, like intentional mindfulness meditation for at least 20 minutes at 5-minute periods throughout the day. So like I might have 4 or 5 little 5-minute periods where I'm just like being present. I'm here. Because you're not gonna get like half an hour to just sit down and embrace the fact that you're alive and you're breathing. But you could do it for 5 minutes. You know what I'm saying? You could even do it for like 3 minutes and then just chop it up throughout your day. So you're taking little breaks to kind of give your brain a rest. Because if you just go 110% for the whole time, you're gonna run into a situation where you're gassed by the end of the day, and you may not even be physically tired, but mentally you're gonna be done.
I mean, if you're done,
you're done. That's what you're done.
You're finished.
So that's really a thing for me where I'm like, yo, I gotta make sure that throughout the course of my day, I'm taking a little 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes to just be like, I'm here, I'm living, I'm breathing. Give thanks. We move. I got a couple things to do, but yeah, I'm gonna be fine. Today's gonna be a good one. Let's just get it. And I'm just like focusing on breathing. I'm not even like having these thoughts consciously. I'm just realigning, just simple.
And how instrumental you think that process is for you essentially maintaining being under constant pressure, because you juggle a whole bunch of different things, right?
Yeah. And I think that's like a good way to phrase it, like a tool that I use, because these are all tools that you refine and skills that you build over time, right? And when I was talking earlier about moving the whole product forward, it's like I want to make sure that I am taking care of my arts education career, my poetry career, my music career, recording artist, and also, I'm starting to sell merch. I have a Patreon that I want to improve upon and do more things with. Like, there's so many things that I'm interested in working on at any given day, on any given time, that if you don't take a second, it will just engulf your thoughts and you won't be able to even separate the issues, because I'm speaking from experience now too, where it's like in the past, when I wasn't able to do those things, I was just feeling overwhelmed constantly, which is not a good place, because that's actually like some people have the response of like going super, super, super duper hard, but my response was like, I can't do anything right now. I don't even know where to start. I don't even know where to begin, fam. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, that was my kind of thing, and it was debilitating to a certain degree, and I had to like separate these things a bit more strategically. And I've had help along the way, different people, learning how to do those things. So it's like, there's a lot of different like tools that I've acquired over time to help me get to this point.
How did you even come to the realization that they're tools? Did you seek out, or did you have conversations? Did you stumble upon them? Because I think a lot of the times people don't, and me being one of them, don't know what's accessible, because it's not a general conversation that's usually happening. Like, hey, I'm having a challenging time at work now.
Yeah. What
skills do you use to, like, that's not a conversation that people usually have, even talking about the importance of still time, like you said, and understanding what still time is. So how did you become aware of these tools?
You and I talk about this all the time. It's like developing self-awareness, right? And I think I always say, like, if there was one first tool, it's the tool of self-awareness. Now you could be like, okay, how do we get self-awareness? And there's multiple ways in which you can build your self-awareness, become a more thoughtful person. But that actually is the first step in terms of where you're going to be moving forward, because you want to get to a situation where you're using your self-awareness to build the other areas of your life up. That's kind of how I would look at it. So gaining self-awareness first in terms of understanding your place in the world. What self-awareness essentially means for me is like understanding your place in the world, the responsibility that you have as a person to every other person, and also like understanding what skills you have and what weaknesses you have. Because a lot of people just walk around not thinking about the things that they're good at and not thinking about the things that they're bad at. And they keep repeating the same mistakes over and over again because they're not even aware of the things that are like constantly coming up as repetitive themes in their lives.
A concept I have about that is essentially you're focusing on the effect and not the root cause.
Yeah.
So it's like cutting the grass but not pulling up the weeds.
Right, and you're gonna just get more weeds. Just get more weeds, not the good ones.
You could count on them to come back without a doubt.
Right.
You spoke about island expressions. Mm-hmm. You spoke about having an opportunity to fail.
Yeah.
Could you explain what does that mean, having an opportunity to fail? What does that mean?
Man, that's such a great question, bro. So for me, like when it comes to taking opportunities, right? And we talk about this all the time. Like when it comes to taking certain opportunities, you don't have to get it right at all, except for one time. You can get it wrong 99 times and get it right one time, and then you're good. People have this fear of failure that keeps them from improving and evolving, and you cannot under any circumstances be afraid to fail, because that is how you grow and improve. Obviously, that's a theme that repeats itself time and time again in my music and my poetry, in terms of not ever giving up and not ever taking no for an answer and taking a fall down without, doing a get up. You got to do the get up part. So for me, that's always been super important. I really am thankful for the moments and the times in my life where I had the opportunity and the safe space to kind of make a mistake here or there, to improve, to get better, to be able to be to a point now where it's like, okay, yeah, I'm master of the ship now. I can teach others how to do those things that I was learning.
Because you've been sailing from
right.
Could you explain how important experience is? Because I'm going again off of what you said earlier about island expressions.
Yeah.
You talk about the opportunity and seizing the opportunity.
Yeah.
So could you talk a little bit about how experience, just in a general sense, regardless of if it's island expressions or things that you did overseas, how important is experience?
Maybe this is a bit of a hot take, but I feel like experience is the only teacher. like you could learn something from a book.
Yeah.
You could learn something from someone else, but at the end of the day, until you experience it yourself, you'll never fully know how it is. You know what I'm saying? And that for me is one of the quintessential elements of the human experience. It is unique. Well, not unique, actually. You could say it's across species where like even other animals, dogs, cats, whatever, when they see something, they don't know to be afraid of it the first time. But then when it hits you, they run away, and now they learn to be afraid of it. You know what I'm saying? You could tell them don't go there. But they can still go. Like it's like a baby even, or a toddler. Tell a toddler, yo, don't touch that. Do not touch that under any circumstances. Yeah. And then
they understand.
Then they understand. And where's a common saying is proverb: who can't hear must feel. Right. So and humans can't hear. Like we, for the most part, we can't hear. We got to feel something ourselves, and then they're gonna be like, oh, okay, I understand now. So I actually had to experience all those things firsthand, and I think we all do. We all have to, because you could talk a big game, but until you're out there, like in the league,
trenches,
you know what I'm saying? Like, so you don't really know what that is, and that's why I think experience is so important.
Valid. You speak a lot about gratitude, right?
Yes.
Could you explain to the people why gratitude is important?
Gratitude is important because if you don't take a second to understand what you have, you will start to lose those things because you're not valuing them and you're not cherishing them. Now, when I say like give thanks or be thankful, I'm not saying like to any specific higher power or anything. Like we all have our own belief system or non-belief system, and that's cool. I'm not even touching on that. My idea of gratitude is just like, yo, I am immensely grateful for being alive right now, and that's number one. Number two, I got family, I got friends, I got life. Number three, I got money, I got this, I got that, whatever the case may be. And you do your own value system for what is important to you in life, right? But after a while, people be like, oh, I can't find nothing else to be thankful for. What does that even mean? You're doing something wrong then. You should be doing better, trying to find more things to be thankful for. And if you don't have more things to be thankful for, that is a sign that you need to be doing more things. That is a sign. That's actually another tool that you could use for your own improvement. How many things do I have to be thankful for? And if it's not more things today than it was yesterday, maybe you should get to work.
On the same theme of experience, right? Could you talk about your university experience?
Yeah. So I went to York University in Toronto for psychology. I graduated in 2015. It was a 4-year program, but I did summer school twice. So I did it in 3 because I really wasn't having a good time. I was over it. So I was like, yo, I'm going to do these double summer courses and we're going to just be up out of here. Yeah. And we're going to be good. So I ended up actually graduating in the fall of 2015. And by then I had already had a really strong idea of who I wanted to become as a person. And I was realizing that I could become a full-time artist and do arts education and that kind of stuff. So I was like, yo, let me just throw myself completely into this situation and try and set up some stuff for myself. The first year or two was very difficult coming out of university with a degree, but not pursuing any more education. Normally people who do a degree in psychology end up doing a PhD in psychology. Yeah, so they could lecture or teach or whatever. Yeah. I do not have a PhD in psychology. I just have a degree in I'm not getting that shit. I'm not getting that shit. That shit's mad long. You got to do mad shit. Right. But shout out to everybody who does. And that's your calling. But at the same time, I realized for me, by the time I was finishing up my first degree, I was like, nah, I'm good. And I have other passions and other interests.
So yeah, just trending off of that same point, right? I feel like mental fortitude is very important, and it's not something that's really talked about. Could you, using that framework, share a little bit of how you demonstrated mental fortitude during your time in university?
Like I was saying, I think that one of the key aspects of living in North America, especially being someone from the Caribbean, is like you have to be able to build up that mental fortitude and that like ability to withstand the inconveniences, microaggressions, people not understanding you, different way of living, speaking the same language but saying it differently, all that stuff. My whole ability and process to withstand that is much more robust now than when it was when I was first moving to Toronto in 2012. So I've done a lot of growth and I've done a lot of development as a person. Going back to that idea of moving the whole product forward is like part of that product is also like becoming less flimsy. You know what I'm saying? Less flimsy, just like really just making it that you're not even entering my inner matrix. You're not even a problem in my life. You wash off me like water off a duck's back. You know what I'm saying? It's nothing. Whereas things used to really like weigh me down at certain points, and I'm feeling overwhelmed and like, you know, thoughts of anxiety and depression and loneliness, missing home, all kind of things. But at the end of the day, through repetition, as you were speaking about earlier, I've been able to really develop that sense of self and sense of identity. Being in Toronto has made me fall in love with St. Kitts even more than I did already when I was living here.
Absence make the heart go.
That's what they say, right? That's what they do indeed say.
Most definitely, man. And I feel like I just always refer to St. Kitts as ghoul.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
facts.
Because it's like,
facts.
You know,
we safe.
Yeah, basically untouchable.
Can't attack me.
You mentioned quite a few things, and like I said earlier, you're very multifaceted. I think you spoke briefly about arts education. So
yeah.
Could you give some more context of what is arts education and how did you get involved in arts education?
Yeah, 100%. So when I moved to Toronto 2012, I went to university, and then leaving university, the year before I left university, so this is 2014 now, because I left university in 2015. So 2014, I participated or represented Toronto at the Canadian Festival of Spoken Word in Victoria, BC, which is in Canada, in like Vancouver area. And we placed second in the country. And I was like, oh, okay, we got some talent here. We got some potential here. This was like when I had started to really like think about arts, like as a career more, right? But as I mentioned to you, like I had bills I had to pay. I had money that I had to make, you know what I'm saying? I couldn't just live off the meager livings that I was dealing with at the time. And so I basically was looking for a way to do art while also making it more of a full-time profession, and not just doing shows, and because that could be like inconsistent depending on the time of year, depending on what's the vibe or who's booking what or whatever gigs are available or whatever the case may be. So arts education was a vehicle for me to practice art on a full-time basis and actually like make a living and establish a career within the art field without having to do something that was like completely like one of the odd jobs that I used to have as a bartender, as a salesperson in Zara. You know what I'm saying? In the Eaton Center. Shout out the Eaton Center. And at the time, so going back to 2014-15, leaving university, I got into poetry and slam, but also just like doing open mics and doing shows. And shout out to Dwayne Morgan, who is a huge positive influence in my life in Toronto. He is actually a trailblazer in the poetry space and poetry community, and he was doing a lot of arts education. He was doing a lot of like workshops, speaking engagements, young people, old people, everybody just like really doing work out there and getting into his communities and, you know, speaking to people in a way that really mattered and uplifting them and giving them tools to further express themselves through poetry and through art. So I was like, yo, that's so cool. And then my friend Patrick de Belen was getting more into it, doing workshops and stuff like that. So my friend Josh and I, we just did a bunch of like pro bono stuff, just like working, just like wherever we could to hone our skills and build up our CVs and just grind out workshops and speak with people, go into communities. That was kind of how I got started as an arts educator. And eventually I started working with the Toronto Public Library, and I started getting grants and doing like programming for myself, working with so many: Cultural Hotspot, North York Arts, Arts Reach, everybody. That was kind of how I got my career started as an arts educator.
You spoke earlier about shows being inconsistent because people doing bookings and stuff. How did you go from being featured on shows to throwing your own show?
It's a beautiful process to throw your own show, but as any promoter or show event coordinator will tell you, it's not for the faint of heart. You know what I'm saying? You have a lot of invested on the line whenever you do your own engagement or entrepreneur experience or project in general, right?
Definitely.
And a show is no different. It's an investment in your career. The return on investment can vary based off of many factors. When I decided to put on my own show, which thankfully I had, again, the support of being able to do it in St. Kitts first, right? I did Social Currency in 2017 and 18 and built off of that to give myself a platform to be able to do shows in Toronto. If I didn't have the experience of doing Social Currency twice in St. Kitts prior to, there was no way that I would be able to do anything, even doing shows in general, because that's how you prove to yourself that, you know, you can really commit the whole way. It's easy to say, yeah, I do this or I get booked here or whatever the case may be, but like, what are you putting on the plate for yourself? You know what I'm saying? What are you going out and doing that, you know, you can say like, okay, this was my stamp on proceedings. This is my impact in my community here.
To that same point, I used to work with a guy, Ivan Hanley.
Yeah.
And he would always say, bring your house papers and let's see if you're going to work the same.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have skin in the game, the stakes are very different.
Yeah.
So you can afford to be more nonchalant.
And human nature, it's hard to be motivated without the right incentives.
Almost definitely.
You know what I'm saying? If it's just a situation where the outcome is almost predetermined, the desire is low.
You mentioned two folks earlier who basically been making waves in the poetry space. How important is it for you to surround yourself with, I don't want to just say like-minded people, but just motivated and people with aspiration?
I'm a huge proponent of that. I feel like, what was the quote? You are the 5 closest people to you in life. I really believe that holds a lot of truth, which is why, in addition to successful people, I try to also surround myself with people who show great self-awareness and empathy, because those are also qualities that I want to reflect in my own life as well, in addition to success in various fields. And the diverse areas in which my friends all have various interests is also a good reflection of the fact that we all have different ways of approaching life, but the foundational principles are all kind of the same. So it's not just about like just liming with other artists, it's about liming with successful, productive, positive-minded individuals in general, regardless of whether they may be an artist or architect or engineer or whatever the case may be. It's more important the character and the perspective on life than anything else.
Okay, on that same note, right? What's the best piece of advice that you've ever gotten that you never used?
The best piece of advice that I've ever gotten that I've never used?
Yeah.
Can it be a good piece of advice if I never used it?
I mean, the reason why I said that is,
give me some context for that one.
you could receive really good advice, but it just might not be applicable to you. Because I feel like
I see. Oh, yeah. Okay. Actually, that's actually a really good question. I have a good answer. I spoke with a consultant one time when I was trying to map out my career, and the advice he gave me was to stop trying to do everything and focus on one thing and do it to the best of my ability. And I think that in a vacuum, that is not bad advice in a vacuum, but it is not applicable to my life. And so I had to do something else. And for me, it's not about just doing as many things as I can, because I don't have any problem saying no to a project that I don't believe in. But what I do have a problem with is passing up on the opportunity to enrich or enhance my life or someone else's life by embarking on a creative project that I deem to be worthy and I deem to be fun and engaging, but also like character building and worth my time and career building potentially as well. So those are more my criteria in terms of what I would be getting involved with.
During your transition from completing school into adulthood, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is one piece of advice if you could give to yourself at that specific point in time when the transition was coming? Like, I'm about to take this step to, because you said that's when we started noticing, hey, I could be a full-time artist.
Yeah.
Right at that moment, what is one piece of advice you would give to yourself to prepare you for?
Yeah. I always tell people that it's not good to not have any regrets. It's good to have regrets because it means that you've grown and you've gained perspective and you've looked back and you're like, I did something wrong there, but your regret doesn't have to define you. And one thing that I do regret is not being more proactive early on in my career and more proactive in terms of organization specifically. And I spent a lot of time thinking or being of the opinion that just because I was really good at poetry meant that I had some sort of right or moment that was preordained to me without me having to go out and necessarily like grab the bull by the horn, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I wish that I had been maybe even spoken to by somebody who could encourage me to be even more proactive, specifically as an artist, because like my parents instilled good values and work ethic and stuff. I wouldn't be here today if not for them, obviously, and the lessons that they've taught me along the way. But what I'm saying is, specifically as an artist, what that could have been, how could I have been more proactive in those first, let's say, year and a half, 2 years, when I was just like broke AF and I was just in grind mode. So for me, I look back on that period of life and I'm thankful for it, because I learned a lot about myself and I became a better individual because of that. But it doesn't mean that I have to glorify the struggle. I want to make sure that I don't have to struggle moving forward. Right? So it's about respecting that part of my life and the lessons that I learned, but being like, yo, if I had to do that over again, I would do it way more smarter, because I'm smarter now. Like, why would I be going back and just grinding? I would just do things a lot more intentionally and proactively. I was kind of just like waiting for opportunities when I could have been even going harder to just make more lanes and more opportunities, like I learned to do subsequently.
You say you have a love and a passion for poetry, for arts, for creating, right? What's your creative process like? Where do you draw inspiration from? So like, is it a situation where, hey, I just had this experience, or I saw this thing, I'm gonna write a song? Or is it you have moments of flow state, oh, something's coming to me, and you start putting it together, and as you're putting it together, then that's when everything formulates?
Both of those things.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay.
At different times, for sure. I think for me, and it's the same reason why my artist name is my name, Patrick Walters, because I'm giving my audience a very authentic experience, or trying to give my listeners a very authentic experience. I'm telling you about my life. I'm giving you experiences firsthand. I'm not co-opting anyone else's story. I'm sharing the unique parts of my own story and the things that I've learned from other individuals as time has gone on, right? But for me, I would never tell a story of doing something that I personally wasn't doing, because there's enough people to tell those stories.
Yeah.
There's enough men who just did all of that. That's their story.
Yeah.
But I got my own, and I got a lot of cool shit to tell you, right? And I got some good ways to look at the world that you maybe didn't even consider prior to hearing me do my thing. So that's what I try my best to focus on, and not to glorify any one specific thing, but to just really hone in on what it means to have a human experience. That's why I named my last album Human Nature, because I find myself very interested with the experiences that we all go through on a day-to-day basis, the dissonance, the love, the everything. So I find myself very, very fascinated with the human experience, and that's kind of why I try to keep it as authentic as possible. And my writing process, or my creative process, is a reflection of that as well. So sometimes I am like, right now I'm in make an album mode, right? I'm working on my third album right now. I'm in St. Kitts, looking to work with some other amazing artists who are here to expand the sound and to build further community with my people. And so I'm writing when I feel inspired, but I'm also making sure that I'm taking time to write, right? Because if I just wait to just write the next moment when I'm inspired to do so, that's the lack of proactivity that I was mentioning prior to. So I have to also now incorporate not schedule like I'm writing it down, but like be intentional throughout my week, for example, and say, okay, have I been doing enough work in my creative process? And if not, then now I know that I need to focus a little bit more time, let's say towards the end of the week, with creative process. And whether or not I have a moment of inspiration is almost secondary to the fact, because I'm making sure that in that time I'm going to do something. I'm going to put a little bit of work in.
Staying in the same vein of creative process, how did you transition from spoken word to adding musical instruments? Like, how did that come about?
I've always been very interested in hip-hop and hip-hop culture, and how poetry relates back to hip-hop. The earliest rappers were poets who just did like instrumentation, and that's kind of like how hip-hop and rapping was born. Right? And so for me, it's just like kind of refining that, like almost bringing it back to its basic elemental process, but in a different way than Raekwon and all the legends, and not even Raekwon, probably like KRS-One, like going right back. Way back, you know what I'm saying, to the beginning. So like folks like that, like my goal is to bring a different sound with familiar fundamentals, but the sound is different. And you can hear poetry, you can hear rap, you can hear music, you can hear instrumentation, you can hear a reggae vibe or R&B vibe or rocking.
That's what popped in my mind one time.
Right, but at the same time, I'm keeping it poetic and I'm keeping it flow state, because that's my sound. So it's like reggae within that version, R&B within that version, rap within that version. That's kind of what I'm aiming for. And I think I've really refined the process over the time that I've been making music and made that transition. But I still do a cappella poetry as well. You know, I still perform poetry shows. I still record poetry. I still have poetry specifically on my album that has very little music, even still. And I will always have that. I will always have tracks that are just like straight up, this is a poem, right? But probably the majority of what I'm doing right now is like verses, songs, choruses, hooks, that kind of shit. And that's just where I'm at right now. It's a great place to just be exploring and refining the process.
Nah, because like you're saying, it's improvement, right? So you just keep getting better.
Exactly. That's the goal.
I can give you the names and just give us some context behind the inspiration for the name. So
Sure.
we have Human Nature.
Yeah, so human nature is just about my fascination with the human experience. I was telling you earlier about just like humans' ability to see a wrong decision and make it time and time again. It's just so fascinating to me. And I find it beautiful, to be honest with you. Like, I think our vices are part of who we are as people. And we cannot fully ever separate ourselves from our vices because these are the things that also make us humans. But also, we have an immense capacity for compassion and love and being empathetic towards one another and being kind towards one another and being altruistic. We have the ability to do those things. So it's like, I didn't name it human nature just to say, yeah, we all sin or we all drink or we all have sex or whatever, but it's also just like we all have the capacity to be even greater. That is also human nature. And that's really what I wanted to explore on that album. It's like from top to bottom, the good, the bad, the ugly. What does it mean to be a human?
Wow, that's powerful. Double salary.
Double salary is a double entendre, obviously. The song is about money and the EP is about like finances and stuff like that, but also it's a 2-track EP, so it's double songs, right? But it's 2 songs, double the salary. Also, double salary is an allusion to also when it came out, because it came out at the end of the year in December, and in December in St. Kitts traditionally the government workers receive a double salary, right? Traditionally. And so for me, that was just a kind of like a cool little play on words there.
The offshore account.
Yeah. My favorite name for an album or a project so far, of course. But the offshore account is basically like my life in a nutshell up to that point. And that's why like it's really difficult to recreate your first album, or like almost impossible, you could say, because you never be in that point again where you're just making an album because you love making an album and you're creating a piece of art that will live on, and it's the first time you get to experience or introduce yourself to the world on a sonic level. And so the offshore account just kind of represented everything that I was up until that point. I felt like coming to Toronto, having lived in St. Kitts for 18 years of my life, basically was like an awakening into a different thinking and a different lifestyle even. And the offshore account, obviously that's another double entendre with the idea of money offshore account, but also my account offshore, like my offshore retelling of the story, my account of what happened, right? And so that's kind of where that stemmed from. And I feel like everybody who has heard that has been like, oh yeah, like it's a really accessible double entendre, which is why it's one of my favorites, because it's obvious that I'm alluding to multiple things at the same time by saying offshore account. And whatever it is that you bring into it is also a part of it as well. So it's really nice for the audience or the listener to be able to bring their own experience into what the offshore account actually means.
I'm going to essentially pull a few lines from some music.
Yeah, let's do it.
And just have you like talk about
for sure
what this means to you, essentially, because I think there's a lot of gems in the music. And as you were saying earlier today, every time you listen, my Dark Twisted Fantasy, you find something new.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's the same sort of thing. And it's really cool to get your perspective. So, King Ellie,
yeah,
I've been beating this quote dead, man, like beating the dead horse. A risk is a chance when you take it, and a lane will only appear when you make it.
That's one of your favorite quotes too.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Because that shit applicable in many aspects of your life.
Yeah, without a doubt.
A risk is a chance when you take it is basically just telling people that to not be scared of their dreams. Most of the time, there's that like jumping off point where you have to go from like whatever you were previously doing inside your comfort zone to what you want to be doing in the future, which is likely to be outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And so the risk is flopping or failing, but a risk is a chance when you take it. A risk is actually an opportunity, because if there's no risk, there's no reward. They are intrinsically linked. You can't have risk without reward. You can't have reward without... It's rare to find reward without risk. Some would argue that you can't have reward without risk because the risk is actually the thing that creates the reward in the first place.
Most definitely.
Right? And so for me, a risk is a chance when you take it. And a lane only appears where you make it is just kind of adding on to that thought of like, you actually won't have anything handed to you. Like I was talking to you earlier about my level of proactivity and expecting things to just kind of fall into place for me because I was a talented artist. Talented artist doesn't mean anything. Talented artist is just talented artist. You could be talented artist in your basement. And it's what you're going to do. Like, what am I going to do about me being talented? And so that's where I had to develop proactivity over time to get to a point where I could create the lane for myself.
Okay. And the latter portion to that same bar is, and faith is saying your destiny out loud every day, cause words ain't enough, but they could start something great. And in the end, divine timing could never be late.
AJ linked me today. Yo, it's so interesting to me how so many times in my life I have been so impatiently waiting for something, and then like when I got it, I was just like, okay, this is great, I'm on to the next thing. But you are not in control of when your moment happens. When you get a little lane for success, it's not always entirely up to you, right? Because there's often other players, there's often other competitors in the space, there's often obstacles against you in any facet of life, in any industry. And so for me, faith ain't enough, but it could start something great. Sorry, words ain't enough, but it could start something great. It's like, that's putting the key in the ignition. I have a dream that one day I can be a full-time artist and live and thrive and pursue my passion. I could say that out loud, and that ain't enough, but it could start something great. I still need to do the action afterward. I still need to follow through on what it is that I'm saying I'm going to do. But the word is the most powerful part, because that's the first action. And then you go from there. So it's about implementing the things that you say into real life.
So essentially, that's you're already set.
Yeah.
The next phase of that would be when you hit the gas. So the key's already in the ignition.
Yeah.
You put it in drive.
Right. Yeah. And you're gone.
Okay, perfect. I got a few more here for this one, and then I can pull one or two from the Our Show account, because like I just love that. And
Thanks.
To ease up on the levels of power that were holding me down, they tried to block me on the inbound. They tried to tell me how I should sound, where I should round my A's and E's and tone down the accent and be an eye candy to a further extent.
Ah, man.
Could
You're bringing me back.
Could you tell us more about that?
You're bringing me back. You're bringing me back. I feel like there at different points in my life has been certain pressure to kind of assimilate, and not only assimilate, but to like push forward some of the things about myself that I personally am less interested in, like my good looks. It's like, yeah, I appreciate the love. Sometimes I do show off or feel particularly handsome, and you know, I might be like, yo, feeling handsome today. I mean, you know me. That's not even my ethos on a regular. That's not even my personality on a regular basis. It would be strange for me to just be like stunting on the gram one day because, you know, got luscious hair or whatever the case may be. You know what I'm saying? It would be strange. It's about the character.
I really like how you just flexed and really subtle.
But you see how it sounds already? Like, I ain't even got started yet. Like, it already sounding crazy.
Like Cat Williams was doing this. Like,
sit back there and say my hair ain't luxurious when you know it is, bitch.
Exactly what I saw.
On me, no silk press. On me, no silk press need. Know what I'm saying? So for me, it's like, yo, that's not even my ethos. There's some far more important things that I'm interested in.
Yeah.
Right. And then also the rounding A's and E's is just like the resistance that I initially felt when I first came to Toronto. I had to like code switch a little bit and like practice code switching and whatever. Like I was telling you before, like now I do it without even thinking. Actually, somebody asked me the other day, what do I think in? That really threw me off. I was like, damn, that's crazy. Like I didn't even conceptualize that. I'm like, so then my answer to them was like, I think in my Kittitian accent, but do I? Because I'm just thinking, like I'm not even cognizant of what it is. But then obviously based on who I'm speaking with or the platform or where I am or whatever the case may be, those things will also determine how much or how little I choose to code switch. So it was just kind of like talking about that, like just the back and forth that you constantly feel even internally to like find that right measure of communication based off of who you're talking to and on what platform you're talking on.
That's also why I bring it up too, because it's like, it's something that you deal with on a daily basis, right?
Yeah.
When you live abroad. And what I thought about earlier when you were speaking about just having to assimilate is when I went to convent and people from overseas would come to convent.
Yeah.
They would be having that experience that you're having.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the reverse almost in a certain way. And no matter where you go, when you're in a different community that is not necessarily your own, you're going to be an outcast to a certain degree. You know what I'm saying? It's inevitable. It's about how well you can adapt and how well you can deal with that. We're talking about some folks who, the other day, who go overseas for different schooling or whatever opportunities and they're not able to do that, or they end up not making it or not choosing to stay for whatever reason. But I can totally understand that because you are made to feel like an outsider. From the time you get there till the time you leave, you're made to feel like an outsider. You know what I'm saying? You could be cool with that and be like, okay, yeah, I'm an outsider. It's okay. For me, it's like I even took that a step further and I'm like, I'm going to use that as a superpower. I'm going to use that as my special ability. I am different. Thank God I'm different to the rest of you.
To the rest of you got me dead.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, give thanks thanks for that. I appreciate my uniqueness. If I was just like every other Torontonian or every other Canadian, then I would have to find some other way to differentiate myself. But it's very clear the very moment I open my mouth, for the most part, unless I'm deep code switching. But when I start speaking, is not Torontonians are immediately aware of the accent, whether or not I'm trying to put it on or not. Just in terms of my life experiences, the things that I would talk about or the things that I would know about is a different set of information. Like I know so much more about other countries or whatever the case may be because their education is mostly focused geared towards Canada itself and learning about Canadian history and stuff like that. So they probably know more about that than I would. So I wouldn't necessarily be able to have a conversation about some shit that happened back in Canada back in the day and whatever the case. But then I also have a lot of other world history knowledge that they wouldn't necessarily have access to. So it's just about like finding common ground, but also like understanding that no matter what, you're going to have a different perspective on life.
You basically relish in your individuality, right?
You have
like,
to.
How important is that to you for you to get to where you're going?
I think like I said, as time has gone on, I've got better at using it. I've got better at using my individuality and I've gotten more comfortable with what that can mean. Even just going back to like talking about looks and being handsome and stuff, it's not even that, but I've gotten some good advice recently to start sharing more of that kind of thing just because that's also a part of who I am as a person. Like, and I don't have to feel bad about that. It is who I am. It is what it is. And so for me, I think it's just about like being able to share more parts and be more authentic for the same reason that my artist name is my name. It's just about continuously bringing more aspects of authenticity to the table for people to see. And that's what for me being an artist is all about. It's about sharing little aspects of my life that I feel like can be relevant to someone else.
So we can switch to the offshore account real quick. Cool Breeze.
Yeah.
Her name is Dynasty?
Yes, Dynasty Williams.
Okay, I got it wrong.
Amazing recording artist in Toronto.
Her voice is just impeccable, bro.
Yeah, she's amazing.
The skill I display these days is a testament to effort and the ode of making one talent into two. You wouldn't believe all the setbacks that I've sat through, but if you must wait, make it great.
Yeah.
So just tell us about two setbacks you had to sit through.
I remember when I was first applying to become poet resident at the Toronto Public Library. My initial application was completely denied because I think there was only a specific amount of spaces and my qualifications had not met the PA requirements or whatever. And so, you know, they were gracious in their decline, but I took it very, very harsh because first of all, I thought I had that. I thought I had that in the bag. So I was already like, yo, it's about to be a good little
active.
You know what I'm saying? So then I was like, damn, that's a L. That's a L. Like I hold that. But at the same time, it taught me a lot. And the next year I applied again and was successful. And I was successful because I took the year to increase my CV and to do things and to put myself further out there and show that I was worth being brought in. And another one, actually, in the same vein, I applied for a big grant, like City of Toronto. Sorry, it was actually Ontario Arts. So like the way that granting in the city is set up, there's micro granting, which is like anything under like 1,000 basically. And then 1,000 to like 10,000 is where most grants fall, especially if it's granting from within the city.
Yeah.
And then the city itself has grants that are available from like 10K to like 20K, for example. And that is for like projects that are run for multiple weeks and workshops and stuff like that. And you show and you provide a plan and a budget and everything. You go through the whole process. And then there's Ontario grants, which is like Ontario is the province or the state, otherwise for Americans, where Toronto is in. So Toronto is the city and then Ontario is the state or province.
Okay.
Right? And so those grants on a provincial level and the ones also on a federal level, which is countrywide, could be anywhere from 20, 50, multiple year grants that could be spanning tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so for those grants, you kind of have to be a business or like an NGO, which is a non-governmental organization, or not-for-profit. I am none of those currently, but I still wanted to apply because I believed in my idea and I knew that I could do it, but I didn't have the proof at the time, right? So when they declined, I said, could you like give me some more feedback on why I was unsuccessful in my application? And basically they were saying like, yeah, like the proposal you gave us is amazing, but we have doubts as to your like capacity to fulfill the grant, basically, right? And that was just another moment where I was like, word, that's a setback. That's a reality that I had to live in for a bit, because at the end of the day, I'm not a business. I'm not a not-for-profit organization by myself. I may be in the future. There's ways in which you can do stuff like that in terms of incorporating or whatever the case may be for yourself, but there is a limit to how much you can do do just by yourself in terms of that field specifically with granting. I feel like I'm at that point where I'm like always like pushing up against that and what that can look like. But again, I would never let a setback hold me down for too long. I'm forward, I'm finding another plan, I'm finding another avenue. If you block this one, I'm going down this road. I'm going to reach my destination regardless. So that's how I view it.
That's the resiliency, man.
Yeah.
I feel like resilience is extremely important, but I think a lot of the times we don't necessarily look at the positive part of resiliency, right? Because if you don't get challenged, you can't demonstrate resilience, right?
Right.
Like if you don't go to the gym, you can't build your muscles. It's the same concept. So
and the risk of that is pain and discomfort and effort that you have to put in and discipline to go to the gym in the first place. But then the reward is where you wanted in the first place. And it's like, for you, are you going to be willing to do that? Are you going to be willing to make the sacrifice in order to get the reward down the line? And I think we should be always looking for more opportunities to do that.
One challenging thing to that, just playing devil's advocate for a little bit, right? So I would say you have proof of concept now for a lot of the things that you thought about, right?
Yeah.
For somebody that doesn't have proof of concept, I talk about this thing called learned helplessness, where you've been stuck in such a rut for so long that you think you can't change the situation and everything is out of your control. So what information would you provide to that person with that sort of thinking to essentially emancipate themselves from that situation?
Small wins.
Underrated.
Small wins.
Very underrated.
Small wins. Small wins is so underrated, but you said it absolutely correct. Like giving yourself an opportunity to win a little bit so you can win big down the line. Giving yourself attainable and achievable goals that will give you motivation as you hit them to set bigger and better goals for the future. That is what people tend to not do. They want to reach the finish line before they start the race. And they're not taking... right?
Me,
right.
That's me.
That's true. But that's why I'm here, not slow you down, but to give you goals in between. To give you the goals in between. Because you're going to get there. I have no doubt. But it's the goals in between that really like make the difference. And I think, that 10-meter mark, that 20-meter mark, that 50-meter mark, those are the ones that you want to hit before you even reach 100 meters. Because you got to hit those before you reach there, right? One thing my father told me from a very early age, I remember wanting to go back to school late for lunch because I was watching cricket. And I would say, yo, Pops, give me 5 minutes. School, me missing nothing in school, nothing going on. The bell just ring. We go up the road a little bit. It's okay. And he used to say, watch here. Them dear done make the millions. You ain't make none yet. Go school. And he was right. Like I didn't want to take the steps in between. I was just like, yo, cricketer, that's what I gonna be. And it's like, nah, like in addition to sports, you also have to have a good foundation. You have, as much as possible, educate yourself. Even if it's not in an academic setting, educate yourself in general, right? There's so many tools and different ways of alternative learning these days that if school is not your jam, then find what is. And give yourself a lot of opportunities to succeed in life, because I never thought when I was 12 years old that I was going to be a professional artist. I didn't even know. I thought initially that I was going to do art, but also have a job as a psychologist. And those things would be a thing. But then I stopped. I didn't enjoy psychology in university. And I was like, this is not actually what I want to do. What I want to do is become a full-time artist and pursue that. And so that's why I had to shift. But if I didn't have steps in place in between there, I would have been faltering. And I was until I made those changes.
Okay. So I just got a few just random questions. Hobbies. You spoke about cricket. How'd you get into cricket?
My dad is a huge cricket fan, and he enrolled me in the Keith Atherton Cricket Center when I was 8 years old. Shout out to Keith Atherton, former West Indies player and my former coach. I mean, I fell in love. I was always very athletic as a kid. I used to run and, like I said, play cricket and stuff. And so that was just like a natural outlet of expression. Now I don't play cricket in Toronto. I used to when I first came to Toronto, but the setup was not ideal. Let's just say that. But now I have so many other hobbies. I play golf as a athletic thing, but I also go to the gym regularly, work out regularly. I also am very interested in cooking. I'm very interested in playing chess. I have many different interests that are outside of just being an artist.
Dream car. If you're into cars like that.
I'm not a super big car person in general, but one car that I think would be cool, apart from like a sports car, of course, because I feel like that's like an easy answer. The G-Class Mercedes, the SUV one.
The G-Wagon?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That joint right there.
Oh my
that's a tough one.
Yo,
I ain't gonna even hold you. That's a tough one.
I see two of them on the island.
Oh, for real?
A black one and a gray one.
Yeah.
They're different.
Yeah, but the toughest car flex that I ever seen was I used to go to school with this young lady in university, and her family was very affluent, and one time they picked her up in 4 BMW M6s. All black. Windows tinted.
Wait, in 4?
4. She went in the middle one. There was one in front, the second one, her, and the last one.
She got X6 convoy, is what you're saying?
M6 convo, yeah. X6 convo.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was incredible. It was incredible. It was one of the most incredible car flexes that I've ever seen. And that's what made me realize that, like, you can have any car, but at the same time, like, there can always be some other car that you just be like, damn, I ain't got that car. That's why I feel like right now I'm at a point in my life where I'm spending more money on experiential things more than like material things, because making memories is a very fun pastime of mine. That's one of my other hobbies, making memories.
I had a quote recently that said something to the effect of, if you understood we were essentially just here to collect memories, you would swing for the fences.
Bro, that's such a good one. That's a good one. Yeah, I like that one. I teeth in that one. Teeth in that one. I going with that one for my next track.
I'll be stealing your shit all the time.
No, good. It's free use, as they would say. But yeah, I love that because it's so true. You know, like you never know when it's time. And so I ain't gonna waste time by getting too caught up in the day-to-day drudgery of things. I try my best to stay very 30,000 feet. That's why, as I'm sure you realize, like I try my best not to let much things get to me. I have a pretty cool homeostasis in terms of just my general demeanor, because I'm operating from a place of thankfulness, and B, I realize that life is too short to get worried about the trivial things that we all concern ourselves with on a day-to-day basis. So I really try my best to just stay focused on the big picture and apply the everyday goals in between.
If you could live anywhere else in the world, where would it be?
As in not St. Kitts and not Toronto?
Yeah, I feel like St. Kitts is like, that's a cheat code.
Yeah, that's like obvious, right? If I could live anywhere else, I would like to live multiple places for 3 to 6 months periods. I would like to live in Korea for 3 months.
Korea?
Yeah, Korea is cool, bro.
Okay, I don't know that.
They're on a wave over there, bro.
I don't know that.
They're on a wave. They got swag. They got mad swag.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, bro. Plus, like, Korean culture in general is interesting to me. Japan for 3 months would be cool.
Japan is clean.
Japan is like pristine. Just the people, the culture, the food. Paris for 3 months would be dope. Food, French food, views, culture, history. Amsterdam. Probably wouldn't want to stay too long in Amsterdam and just get lost in the sauce. maybe like a 2 weeks or 3 weeks would be good. I don't even want to live in Toronto for as long as I do. Why would I want to live in any other place for as long as I am? I wish I could spend 6 months in Toronto, maybe 6 to 8 months. Right now I'm spending like 10 months, which is too many. And like, obviously, like we said, St. Kitts is good, so you always want to come home. But like, there's also so many other places that I like to see and visit and experience. Like I told you, experiences are one of my favorite hobbies.
So top 2 places you'd like to visit? Like all expenses paid? Like,
yeah.
Top 2 places?
South Africa, or like a place in the southern part of Africa. Sub-Saharan, and then one more, let's just say Brussels. Yeah, just because like I've never been to that part of the world. They have their own unique way of doing things. And I just mentioned Japan and Korea, so I didn't want to just go there again. Although those are places that I would like to visit as well. In terms of if I had to say a top 2, probably Japan would be in that. I actually had tickets to Japan before Corona.
That is crazy.
Yeah, and obviously they got canceled.
Obviously.
Yeah. Obviously. Everything got canceled. You know what I'm saying? So they refunded me and I just used them to fly home.
Yo, that's crazy.
Yeah. But I still have it on the list of places I'd love to travel to.
Okay, perfect. So last thing before we go out of here, right? Anything of inspiration you'd like to recommend, whether it's a book, it's a movie, it's something that was powerful to you?
NPR podcast, Better Daily. Good podcast. You know, self-help in terms of whether it be podcasts or videos. Malcolm Gladwell does a lot of really good. Amazing space in that work.
You ever read Outliers before?
Yes, great book. That's actually a book I could recommend as well. I am personally not reading a bunch of self-help right now because I'm trying to like develop of my my life in general.
Yeah.
But I would start there and go from there. Also Vsauce, which is like more like scientific information, I really like, but they also go like from the personal aspect of things. That's a YouTube channel. Neil deGrasse Tyson's podcast is a great podcast, not just for science but for life in general.
Okay.
Yeah. For me personally, like the idea of self-help or improvement or whatever the case may be is a personal journey for everybody. You may be missing certain aspects of your life that can't be helped by Malcolm Gladwell. Like you might got some issues that, you know, one specific self-help individual can't necessarily speak to. And so the idea of self-awareness and self-actualization is actually equally about finding those things that are flaws for you and improving upon them, whether it be increasing empathy or increasing thankfulness and gratitude, or increasing your capacity to output work, or increase your capacity to imagine, whatever the case may be, right? These are all aspects, but if you don't have self-awareness, you're not even going to know where to begin. And so that's why I always encourage people to develop a sense of self and understand where your place is in the community that you exist in, what you mean to others, and what you can bring to the table whenever you meet someone new, whether it be a perspective or something that you've experienced that you feel like would be of value to them. That is how you truly become a more self-aware and self-actualized individual.
Anything else you'd like to say to the people?
Thank you for having me. This has been a wonderful experience. It's always great to talk to you, but like in a podcast setting and really just like document the gems is a great feeling. And so thank you for having me on. It's been a wonderful conversation I thoroughly enjoyed, and I look forward to continuing our mindful collaboration of everything that we embark upon.
Man, the pleasure is definitely mine. Like I tell you, anytime I'm doing anything, to have you involved in the early stages is always an impeccable idea, man. You know
Appreciate it.
And you bring a lot of great perspective because I have access to you all the time.
Yeah.
So, like, I know the type of perspective and the springboard that you have for me and many other people as well. So I think it was super important to get you on the platform to create this space so the conversations that we do have, other people can also benefit from us helping each other, because that's the idea. Like,
exactly,
each one teach one, and we just continue building and building and building.
Precisely.
So we're now at the end of the episode, man. Thanks for tuning in for the Renaissance Reflections Conversations with Judas. Looking forward to seeing you on the next one. Until next time, continue elevating. We're out of here.
Peace.
Millionaires, Juda states, tax-free savings, IRAs. On paper, a simple wage, but they got business and business pays. And global wage sits at $1. You avoid jail if the crime is white collar. You avoid jail if the crime is white collar. Pity that I can't